Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of TV Talk, brought to you by the Ayn Rand Center UK, where we talk about critically acclaimed and/or popular TV shows from an objectivist point of view, and sometimes we compare these shows to Atlas Shrugged or some of Ayn Rand's work, just to see if there's still heroism in the culture out there. I can't necessarily say that that is the case with the show we saw this week, the torturous 9-episode show called Inventing Anna, but we'll get into the blood and guts of that in a second. First, let me introduce my two esteemed and amazingly beautiful co-hosts, Jennifer Bouani and Jacqueline Schumann, my partners in crime. They too had to go through 9 hours of torture, although I don't know if that's exactly the way they looked at it. Certainly the way I looked at it. So let me just give
I
a quick.
watched the finale again last night, and I found myself yelling at the TV. So
I'm so sorry. I know exactly where you were yelling, and we'll talk about that in a second. I just wanted to give people a quick rundown of this show, which is on Netflix. It's called Inventing Anna. It only has a 6.8 rating, by the way, on IMDb. My wife tells me never to look at those things, but I do. And I only look at horror movies if they're 6.8 or in the 6 range. I don't look at any other films if they're in the 6.8 range. This should be with the cast it has, and with Shonda Rhimes, who's one of the biggest executive producers and writers in Hollywood, as the helm, as the showrunner for this show. This should be in the 7.5, 8.6 range, but I think there's a reason why it has such a mediocre star range, and we'll discuss that in a minute. It also has the amazing Julia Garner in it, playing the title role of Anna Delvey, and you all know her from Ozark, where she acquired fame and many accolades, like Golden Globes, I believe, and Emmy Awards, I think, for her great acting in that. It also stars Anna Chlumsky. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right. Arian Moayed. I hope I'm pronouncing that right and not bastardizing his name. Katie Lowes, and a host of other folks that populate this New York jet set world. And the show itself is about this Russian emigre who comes to America, inserts herself into the fashion and entrepreneurial world of New York, and with absolutely nothing to her name, money, material wealth of any kind, but on a lie, on the premise that she is a German heiress, is able to fool bankers, artists, socialites, and any number of other rich folks in the who's who of New York social life into believing that she was something that she wasn't, because she wanted to create this thing called the Anna Delvey Foundation, which was sort of a super club for the rich, that catered to them, while at the same time being a repository for art. That's what I'm thinking the basic plot is, guys. Of course, she's not successful. She gets caught for various reasons that we'll probably talk about in here. But let's get into this. Did anybody on this esteemed panel like the show, and if so, why?
Oh, why not? So
Why not?
I started this show got my attention because of Julia Garner. A huge fan of her, even from The Americans. She plays the daughter of a CIA agent that Philip gets involved with, and then of course Ozark. And so I thought, wow, so she's in this. This must be good. And I think I had heard the story, the real life story of her, when it first came out, maybe a flash of a headline somewhere. So I watched it, but I was really kind of from the very beginning questioning their decision to tell it from a point of view of this journalist, because ultimately that was the main character we're following through. And I just did not care about her story. I really wanted it to know about Anna, and maybe possibly from the point of view of somebody who actually was interacting in real time with her during all this. So that bugged me from the beginning. And then I thought there were opportunities for interesting themes in the story that could have been highlighted and done well, but I think it missed the mark. But I also think, after talking to you guys yesterday, that perhaps there were some more nefarious themes that I had missed that I'm interested to discuss with you.
What
So
what
that's
themes
what.
did, themes did you think there was room for, but they didn't explore enough?
Oh, the one that really kind of came out was how Anna seemed to have this power over people, like the journalist and the attorney, and how they just sort of kind of caved to it. And what was it that she was doing? And I think we have different ideas about what she was doing that they're probably all true, but the way that she was able to, I think this is something that people in real life do. Not necessarily even con artists, but maybe on the borderline of just how people manipulate people to do things that they want, and that dangling something that they know people like, and then saying you'll get it, but then moving the goalpost.
So you wish they got into the psychology of a pathotype like that more, somebody who's able, like a predator, to sense somebody's weaknesses, use those weaknesses, and exploit them to their advantage.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What else?
Well, that was the big one, but I don't. Before we go too deep in that, I want to make sure that Jax has a chance to give her overall
I'm
views.
enjoying you talking more, Jennifer. This is great. Let's switch roles today. I no, I feel like I like hog the stage sometimes when Mark's not around. But I want to actually say one of our good friends is listening right now, Gerard. So shout out to Gerard, a longtime friend and objectivist, and our first reader for all of our scripts. So hey, Gerard.
What's up, Gerard?
But so I think we're sort of all in agreement on the level of like and dislike that we have for the show. I do think that was a really huge theme that should have been explored more. I agree with you, Jennifer, that how did she do this, right? How did she con all of these people? And it's almost like they just wanted to be conned. And when we were having our discussion yesterday, Mark, one of the things you pointed out was that anytime Hollywood does a show about business, or does creates a work about business and corporations and whatnot, they're really just writing about themselves. And to an extent, I think that this is kind of what went on with Anna Delvey and how she was able to fool everybody. Because I think that, like, she's even though people had like legit careers, there was still like a level of fakery to them. And I read the article last night that the original reporter wrote from the New Yorker, and even in that, you don't have any sense of that theme. It was basically, the theme was money talks. All you got to do is throw money around, and people will just fawn after you.
It's true. I think in that article, she even says people follow the bright, shiny objects. And I think that is a theme. I don't know if you would call it a thematic element, but it's certainly an element that they explore fairly ruthlessly here, right? That it's image over substance, it's story, it's mythology over reality. And one of the things I thought was very interesting, you see this particularly on social media, is how once a story starts going, it takes on a life of its own, and it becomes its own sort of. It carries a credibility gravity to it, so that once 3 or 4 people are saying it, so 5 or 6 more say, just because 3 or 4 said it, right? So you see how reputation isn't necessarily garnered on actual merit, but by smoke and mirrors, by just the sheer weight of the number of people who are claiming a thing is so. And I think that's an interesting social phenomenon that isn't untrue. I think that is something worth exploring. What do you say?
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. It's interesting. It reminded me a lot. We talked about this yesterday, of Francisco d'Anconia, and how everybody reacted to the San Sebastian mines. Right, they were just I mean, if because this man is a god, then certainly nothing he can do will go wrong. Everything he touches turns to gold. And he managed to basically, I mean, in a way, Francisco managed to swindle everybody out of their money by just letting them think that he didn't do really anything on purpose. In fact, the point is he did nothing at all, right? But he manages to swindle them out of their money by investing in an absolutely worthless mine that gets nationalized. So
By proving that they had no minds of their own, right?
correct.
That's essentially what he proved, and we see this in real life with a billionaire investor type by the name of Warren Buffett. I think there are tons of people who just, rather than think, would say, whatever Warren does, let's let those indicators tell us what to do next.
Right.
Right. And we see a lot of that, what I think objectivists would call second-handedness going on throughout this whole piece, where nobody's really thinking for themselves. Everybody's sort of reacting on they're filling in the gaps with their own imagination, with their own assumptions about this person and their own desires. They're not really seeing her for what she is, and it's a massive act of evasion and second-handedness that allows her to get away with all this, or to get as far as she does, at least.
I think it's an interesting analogy to compare Anna to Francisco. So how would you say what Anna did was wrong versus what Francisco did?
Well, go ahead.
Francisco let them be the consequences of their own actions. He didn't actively, he wasn't going around saying, oh, I just visited the mines, they're looking great. There's lots of whatever ore or copper, it's like plentiful, and I've been talking to the Mexican government, there's no way that they're going to nationalize. She was actively misleading people. Francisco wasn't on a phone scrambler like pretending to be a banker.
Right. He just invested in people followed because he was who he was. She was pretending to be something that she wasn't. She defrauded a bunch of people. And people who couldn't think for themselves, or who just presumed that because she was running in the circle that she was running in, that she was legitimate. And would you think that? Would you fall victim to that kind of thing in certain circumstances? Because the attorney says something in his defense of Anna, which isn't untrue. It's cynical, but it's not untrue. That there's a little bit of Anna in all of us. We exaggerate. We we sometimes exaggerate our reputations to get things that we want. We sometimes don't tell the entire truth to get what we want. And you could say the same thing about the people that, were taken in by Anna. We sometimes can think that someone's reputation is bigger than it actually is because other people are accepting them as if it's bigger.
But also, you don't want to go around just like thinking that everybody's a fraud. You want to believe in people, and it's like the banker, like he, in today's age, of course he has to do his due diligence, and he should, and that's important. But
and he should have hired a private detective too. I don't know why he never did that.
A private detective? Was he
the lawyer? Yeah, he should have hired a
not
private.
The lawyer, I was talking about the banker.
Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was the only one.
Yeah, well, you're right. They're just going off of their emotional impressions. They're not really taking in what's going on. They're right. To me, the long 9-hour film is about that, the error of emotionalism, the error of stature, right, and the influence of stature on people's lives, even if it's fake stature.
Well, interestingly, so I think that there are two types of people that are being portrayed in Inventing Anna. Two main categories. The first is the largest, the one that we've been talking about, of people not thinking for themselves and and sort of allowing themselves to be conned. I think the second more dangerous category are the people, well, maybe they're equally dangerous, but to me, it really hit home with me last night when I was watching the finale again. Her lawyer and the reporter were not fooled by Anna in the same way that everybody else was fooled by her, because they went and they did all this research, and the journalist went and met her family, so she knows who Anna really is. She knows that Anna's a fraud, and yet she's rooting for her. She's
Yeah.
actually rooting for her, especially in court. And this is, one of the times when I was yelling at the TV when, they make a joke at the expense of poor Rachel, who's been swindled out of $60,000. And Vivian just makes a face like a freaking 13-year-old, like, and I was just like, why do they think that this woman is a hero? And you actually brought this up yesterday, Mark, and maybe you can talk about it a little bit now. Is this whole like Robin Hood thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a dominant sense in our culture today that if you have money or resources, you didn't earn it, or you earned it off the back of somebody who has less than you, and so you're not worthy of sympathy. If you get swindled, you've swindled people in the past. It's probably just your comeuppance. It's karma coming back to you, and there's an element of that classism throughout this where you have the reporters who know just as much about Anna as the main character, Vivian, does, who are cheering for her to get the not guilty verdicts. And
Right.
I found that so nihilistic. It's
Mhm.
it's it's altruism at its worst. It's people voting for the non-value or the anti-value to win over the value, simply because the other people were rich.
Hmm.
They don't, they
They
are
don't
the
deserve justice. They don't deserve to be counted as
they're the
individual rights.
Goliath. They're the Goliath. She's the David, and we automatically take the side of the David, and that's altruism. That's what altruism does to us. It makes us. It puts us on the side of the downtrodden, the criminal. This whole series attempts to make her into a sympathetic character. When Vivian goes into her past life, trying to untangle the web of lies that Anna tells about who she is, to see the real deal, and finds out that in fact her parents are sort of normal immigrants who probably experienced a little bit of oppression and harshness from the German society that they ended up emigrating to, but that they didn't create this thing. This animal was sort of a self-made sociopath who found this track early in life and went on it, irrespective of their influence.
Hmm.
And yet, even though you know that Anna is reptilian and reptilian in her ethics, and has absolutely no real connection with anybody, the punchline of the piece is that the reporter promises she's going to come visit her in prison. There's people who love this woman, and you can find no reason for it.
Right. Oh, and she's getting marriage proposals, and she's selling art now. She draws,
Well,
she's
so
selling
did Richard
art in
Ramirez.
prison. Yeah. Yes. The Night
Yes,
Stalker.
I mean, there's certainly a subset of our culture that's attracted to the dark side like that, and infamy, as O.J. Simpson has said, is oftentimes more interesting than being famous, and sometimes more arousing to people, and gives them more opportunities than they otherwise would have had. And that's sickness. That's weird, because the woman demonstrates that she has nothing other than will. Every sociopath criminal has will. They have great determination to get the thing that they want. They just don't have any qualms about how they get it. And that's not a person that is deserving of love or loyalty at all. They should be shunned,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed.
But
Agreed. We have a couple super chats, a few that I want to get to. The first one, Sammy's bored again for a pound 99. Thank you. And then the next one from Apollo for 150, a pound 50. Thank you. And Allie for $10 has an interesting question. So I'd like to get your take on this, everybody. I don't understand why Neff and Casey are mad at Rachel for the sting operation and what she did, knowing what kind of person Anna is. Why did Rachel feel guilty about doing the sting op? Mind-boggling. What do you guys think about that? When Rachel, and also Mary Aline, thank you for $4. When Rachel basically lures Anna out of rehab in LA to get arrested so that she can go back and stand trial. Somehow Casey, the trainer, and Neff felt this was just crossing a line. It was a betrayal, and yet Casey was the one who actually had the intervention with Anna, right? Who created or orchestrated the intervention with Anna. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think it's loyalty disconnected from any values again. It's like the person in the neighborhood who takes pride in not being a rat, even though the fact that they would be attracting the police to a criminal who predates the neighborhood, and hurts people, and they would be taking that malignant influence out of the universe. They take pride in the fact that they don't do that. And so it's once again loyalty connected to nothing. I mean, you have to ask yourself, if you value something, if you want to be loyal to a value, what is it that you want to be loyal to? What is it about? And there's strong hints in this show that there's deep misogyny in the art world. There's deep misogyny in the entrepreneurial world, and in the journalistic world, of course, because our lead journalist has been thrown under the bus unfairly, and the man moved up and she got pushed to Siberia. And there's the implication that a woman's got to do what she's got to do to get it done, and Anna just simply had the cashews to do what needed to be done to get it done. And
it was ridiculous for them to ask her to be loyal when the woman had stolen $60,000 from her. Like, is she not allowed to defend herself and get justice for that? So and
the way that the lawyer manipulated that too on cross-examination was pretty shitty, because he was like, oh, so you've accepted free drinks from her, free vacations, free this, free that. And, now when you're asked to, pay up or pay your share, you have a problem with it. And it's that is not what happened.
Yeah, that's not what happened. Right. And see, once again, this is altruism, again, throwing virtue under the bus for vice, right? Mm-hmm. That wasn't what was happened. She put her credit card out there as a temporary hold until the money came in. She wasn't wealthy like, the people she was running around with, and couldn't afford to do those things. And again, the onus is on the person who profits. Forget that she's got justice on her side. The fact that she profited off of this story makes any claims to justice false. Again, right. Bullshit.
Yeah. It is completely. It has nothing to do with how she profited from this story. I can understand a witness's credibility being questioned when they've taken when they've got immunity or something, or when they've taken something in return, because, that usually means that there's something that they did wrong that they're not going to get tried for because of a larger crime. That kind of stuff happens all the time, though. But yeah, it was made even worse that she profited from it, as if the only way she would be seen as sympathetic is if she was continually homeless on the streets. And
that's right.
It was wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't even made worse. It was made sinful, because she was absolutely castigated. She was the villain. There was absolutely no virtue behind what she did because she profited from it. That's just gross.
This whole case is all about how Anna has profited from swindling everybody, and right, somehow she's supposed to be innocent.
Yes, but a poor Russian immigrant who came up with nothing, fighting against the misogynistic, paternalistic machine that is the New York, literati, artistic world, and entrepreneurial world. Once again, it's the David versus the Goliath, and you're supposed to have sympathy for the David, even if that David is the most despicable person in the earth. And this also makes me feel like this is in line with some of the cultural trends that we hear, um, where you are simply invalidated by being in a particular by occupying a particular part of the hierarchy. Mm-hmm. And you have tons of validation, irrespective of what you do or what you think, if you're in another part of the hierarchy. And these evaluations are more or less automatic. And I think they're through this show. And it's a slick show. It's a slick show. There's a lot of, cool stuff about it. It's produced very well. Shonda Rhimes, knows what the hell she's doing.
Do we have any numbers on how many people watched it? Because you said there's a 6.8, which is not a great score. I'm wondering how popular it really was.
I haven't read any of the critical reviews on it, and I don't know how popular it was. I imagine the first. I had no idea the show existed. I only looked at it because you guys suggested it, but I would imagine that the only attraction would be the train wreck, the rubbernecking thing. You want to see what's going on in the accident in the next lane. Almost a reflexive human response to bad things that happen. Otherwise, there's nothing about this.
I just pulled up a quick article on viewership, and the headline is Netflix rules Nielsen streaming chart with Inventing Anna. Also, Vikings, Valhalla, and Worst Roommate Ever. But I guess Inventing Anna grabbed the top 4 spots. It was number 1 for 3 weeks. But the audience for Anna fell 44% from at week 4, I guess, for whatever. And it could be because Stranger Things came out and everybody's attention got shifted there. But an interesting question from one of our super chats, if I can go back to it, from Ellie. Do you think they did justice to the real life story behind all of this? I have my thoughts on that. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't really know all the details of the real life story, so I don't know if I can comment on that.
I can't comment as well. I read a little bit of that article and I saw, about 20 minutes of the 60-minute segment on her. I thought Julia Garner played her with a great deal more humanity than she demonstrated in her interview in 60 Minutes. Right. She was extremely off-putting and had zero compunction about anything that she did. In fact, her rationalization for doing what she did was, well, they're stupid. They deserve to get swindled. And, Delvey can say that in the show, and it's less of a hammer blow than it is when the real person says it, because she says it with eyes that are
just dead,
reptilian,
soulless eyes, like lacking in complete empathy. So my view on it is I don't think that they did the real. They could have done the. When I read the article, there was a lot that aligned with the show, but there were, they deviated in a lot of areas. There were characters that were made up characters, like amalgamations of real characters. Certain events that didn't happen, like when she overstayed her welcome on the yacht and stayed for like a month or something, that never happened. And she also claims, the real Anna Delvey claims, that she never ran up the credit cards like $400,000. Although she would deny that, right? Because that's yet another crime that she could get prosecuted for.
Of course, she would deny all that. You don't know what's true.
I don't think that the story did enough justice to show how sociopathic she really is. They really kind of sensationalized her and in a way, like, idolized in a way.
Yeah, here's the deal. Here's the deal. She went to a sort of elite school in Germany. She felt like she was on the outside. She felt like she had to compensate for being on the outside and being shunned by her German school friends by dressing up and harboring dreams of, being in a society bigger and richer than what she was in. And so it's all their fault. Right?
Yeah.
They created the school kids, the mean girls in the German school created this sociopath that we see before us today.
So, and you saw the 60 Minutes interview. Do you think that Julia Garner got her Anna Delvey's accent right?
It's an extremely hard accent to get right. I admire her because I don't know what it's from. I mean, there's a character in the story that says a Russian word and says, "I think I detect a little Russian in your accent." I couldn't tell that from the way the real Anna Delphi spoke. I couldn't tell where she came from, to be honest with you. So I think Julia sort of inhabited that and gave it a flavor of her own, so that you yourself don't know where she's from or what she's about. I mean, her accent is as amorphous as the profile she wants the world to see. Right? She doesn't want you to see the real her, and the accent you can't place either. And it was weird sometimes. It was
Yeah.
hard to get on board with it, but
I liked Neff's accent. Speaking of accents, she had a cool kind of delivery of lines. I think she was supposed to be from DC. Although
yeah.
my original thought was she from New Orleans? Like there was something, just
Yeah,
something,
she had a bit of South to her
just
in her
like a
accent.
little attitude in the way she spoke.
Well, DC South. That's South. That's South,
Yeah.
but then that character is puzzling to me too, because she's interesting. She's a go-getter. She's got the qualities that lead somebody to success, but she sort of hooks onto the star of Anna Delphi. At first, it's sort of understandable, but once, and her loyalty is even I thought was very interesting, since she's the only character in the story to remain loyal to her. And I thought it was because she bought it. She bought the story, so she was invested in false values. But once she finds those values to be false, she still winds up supporting her. It's just like these people. Well,
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
I, I mean, life is like this, I guess, right? We say with family, you love people that you don't like, or people say that. I don't think it's an appropriate saying, but people do have relationships with those that are not, especially old time friends that you went to school with. They're not necessarily based on values anymore. They're just sort of
Yeah.
based on the fact that you know each other. But in this case, people coming together later in life,
Yeah.
what is it that Neff is attracted to besides her rebelliousness and her contempt for rules?
Well, for the longest time, I mean, in effect, Anna was more or less paying her to be her friend, and tipping $100 all the time. And in the article as well, like that scene where she just lays down 100 after 100 after 100 to get her attention, that actually happened.
Yeah, I
At
read.
least according to the article. But there was something. I think Neff. One of the things that I think narcissists and sociopaths are really good at doing is making you think you are the only person in the room, and making you think that you have a very special understanding of them, you and you only. And I think that was something that was, appealing to Neff, in feeling like she truly understood Anna. Nobody else understood Anna. And that breeds kind of a loyalty, because if you then have to admit, ah, shit, I really don't understand this person. I really don't, she's not the person that I thought she was. Then you have to admit that you were wrong about it. Then you have to admit that your judgment is flawed. Then you have to admit you're not special, right? I think
Yeah, but
Neff felt special being loyal and friends with Anna.
I think that's probably true, but what inspires her to drop you know, her job at the 11 George or whatever it was, and actually go for her dream of being a director? What was it in the story between the two of them? What was it in her relationship with Anna that made her make that move? There's a lot of moves that happen like that are incomprehensible to me, right? I don't know why the lawyer likes her. I don't know why he's
Yeah.
defending her for free, especially after the way she talks to him when he tries to get her to dress in the prison, in the clothes that the prison has provided. She's
Mhm.
so awful to him, and I don't understand why the reporter likes her, unless she just feels like, two women in solidarity against a world that has it out for them. I don't know. And I don't know why Neff, once she's disillusioned, what
That's
is so
one of the super chats actually from Allie for $2. Thank you. Can we talk about why Todd is a creepy lawyer?
I don't think he's a creepy
I
lawyer.
don't find him creepy, but it's inexplicable to me why he is defending her, especially in that scene at the finale where she's not wearing the clothes and they just get into this huge shouting match and she's like, "You're fired! You're fired!"
Well, she's saying horrible things to him, but it's even worse. Okay. It's even worse to me. This is altruism again. Altruism is through this whole thing, giving up something, sacrificing the good for the sake of the bad. That seems to be through this whole thing as a virtue, not as a vice, but as a virtue. Because what does he do? He does his job. Okay. He discharges his duty, or at least his moral obligation, you could say, from our point of view, as the attorney. The verdict is read. He doesn't have to hang around for the sentencing. His wife has been waiting to go on vacation with him, with their kid. He goes outside and she's making plans about the good time they're going to have. And he says, "I can't do it. I'm sorry. I got to go back in." What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Oh, I know. Like,
I
what?
hated that.
Why?
What
If I
the
was, if I were
fuck?
her, I would just be like, you know what? I'm too good for you. We're done.
Again, is that supposed
And
to,
then you
is
have
that,
the attorney and the journalist bonding, and like all of a sudden they're besties, and I'm gonna miss you. And I'm like, what? None of this makes sense to me either.
none of it did. And maybe it happened that way. I mean, maybe these people bonded over the wreckage of this person and the wreckage that this person caused, and or fighting for that, that David in a Goliath world. I don't know, because I can't relate to what made that guy tell his wife he was going to go and finish the job that somebody else could have finished. He'd done his part.
And what I hated, which is both, it's very good direction, good set design and everything, but what I hated was that they had to have an argument about the importance of Anna when they were at their home and they're showing all of her shoes on the wall, and just like she's the one percenter and he's living and he's sort of like, taking up space in this one percenter's room, and it gives him a subconscious, it's meant to, right, it's meant to give him like the subconscious favor, I guess, in the argument that they're having, because they could have chosen a number of different places to have
Yeah,
that argument.
I
They
thought that was
chose that purposely.
yeah, I thought that unusual too. That I'm like, oh shit, they're in a walk-in closet. I didn't know they were that wealthy. She's got 75,000 shoes. She's like, what's her name? Imelda
Imelda
Marcos.
Marcos, yeah.
It's like, you're right. It robs her of it, again. It robs her of her right to claim her
Right,
husband's time,
Yeah,
right.
right? Which is completely legitimate.
right.
Yeah, and
Ugh.
it's sneaky. I mean, I appreciate from an artistic perspective being able to manipulate an audience in that manner, right? And but it's still, those are things. Those are all like subconscious things to look out for. We do have more super chats. Ellie for $5. People like Anna are out there. This is a good question. What can we learn from this story to better navigate those types?
Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think you can listen to your emotions with people like that, because they know how to play on your emotions. And your emotions, after all, are only sort of programmed by evaluations that you've made in the past. They don't necessarily tell you what's right in the here and now. Had any one of these people decided to really look her up, which wouldn't have been that hard, to do their due diligence and be rational, they would have seen her for the fraud that she is. And they would have said, hey, you're sort of charming, but you're a fraud. Get out of my office. And I don't care if you cry outside. You're not going to
Yeah.
get what you want from me. Right. So these people play on weaknesses, they play on emotionalism, they play on what they know are your psychological cracks. And you have to rise above that with your faculty of reason, understand that's what's happening, and tear yourself away. Like, if you might have to tear yourself away because on some level you're addicted to or connected to or attracted to that kind of human being. The real analysis has to go into figuring out why that is. But first,
Yeah.
get away from that person for your own sake.
And I would add to that to think for yourself. Always think for yourself. If something seems like it's too good to be true, trust that feeling and explore it. And we talk about our guts sometimes as in like, well, our gut can be like an emotional reaction. We don't always trust it, or it's not always right. But usually it is. It's not for the same reason. So if you get a feeling about something, trust that and explore it rationally, obviously. Like, explain. There's a really great book that I'm going to plug called The Gift of Fear. And it talks explicitly about how important it is when you have that feeling that something's not right. Because I feel like, there were characters in Inventing Anna who, like the boyfriend, Neff's boyfriend, was very much like, she's not legit. She's, there's something's off about it. And like he had this gut feeling like, no, there's just nothing, something's not right about it. So I would say
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
one of the other positives.
but again, to me, gut feelings are they could be reflections of something that's going on that you have to pay attention to, and the intervention of your fear of being wrong or being socially ostracized keeps you from acting on that, and you end up getting hurt. But there's also, people who are drawn to this type of behavior, this type of person, because
Hmm.
they play on weaknesses, and they make you feel insecure, and they make you doubt the evidence of your own senses. And it's what's important is, see, that gut feeling that you have is your senses telling you something. Your senses are telling you something immediate in your reality is telling you something. And it's important to take that stuff
Yeah.
seriously, right?
Yeah.
And but the emotionalist isn't doing any of that, right? They
Right.
manufacture an image of Anna in their heads. They're responding to that. They're responding to what she says, the image she's created, not anything they're not in the moment. They're not in reality.
Right. Yeah. They look at how they feel about themselves when they're around her, or how she makes them feel, and that can be very dangerous, especially if you're a type of person who is attracted to narcissistic, sociopathic, which is very common, right? These narcissists and sociopaths wouldn't thrive in the way that they do without people that follow them, like the Pied Piper.
That's right. And all you have to do is look to Washington for a whole slew of them. You see them every day on the news, every day.
We
Um,
have
I, I, I have to get going very, very soon. So if we have more super chats, we got to take care of
one
those
more
as well.
super chat. Although people were gonna super chat to hear my Anna Delvey accent, so I'll do it if I get a super chat for it. But right now, Ali for $5, referring to Todd the lawyer. Sorry, but he's creepy. He ended up being the parent after Anna's dad said no. That's why, in my opinion, he begged her dad to come for the trial. It's a mess. I still didn't think he was creepy. I thought he was more desperate. And maybe we're splitting hairs on the term creepy, but
Yeah,
so
I
that
don't
was
think his desire to bring the dad to the trial was a creepy move on his part. I think I think he was doing it for a number of reasons for Anna overall, and all of them constructive, not creepy or weird in my view.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that, Jennifer?
Yeah, I didn't pick up on a creepy vibe at all. Yeah, I thought it was a strategic to bring the dad into the courtroom if he could possibly even. I mean, for Anna first for support. But he was super involved with her, like there was something in it personal for him.
Yeah,
Maybe
creepy was not going on vacation with his wife when he should have gone on
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah,
That
there
was
you go.
creepy.
Okay, so Apollo for £2 and Allie for $2 want me to do the Anna Delvey voice.
Okay, go ahead, do it. Let's hear it.
Okay, all right. I haven't done it in front of an audience. The only person I did it in front of was Jennifer before.
Millions of people are watching you now. Don't be
Millions are
nervous.
watching. Okay, well,
nervous.
the thing is like she's from Russia, but like she grew up in Germany, and it's really hard to like figure out her accent. And it's not just like the way that she says stuff, it's like what she says too. Like, Mark, you just look poor. And like Jennifer, I just don't know what you're wearing. It could be like Gucci, but it's like from 3 seasons ago, and you just look poor too. And you guys are just so
Ah.
basic. You're so basic. That's my
That's
accent.
very good. That's a very good accent. Yeah, whatever that is, that's the Anna Delvey accent. All right, guys, I have to get going because I have to go to work. But do we have any business to conduct, or we have another thing we're going to review, right? Another show pretty soon.
Yes,
You
we're
wanna talk?
doing Stranger Things next, are we? Stranger Things season 4, although if people want to watch all 4 seasons, that's fine, but we'll just be reviewing season 4. Um, that's going to be next Friday, is that right?
Yeah, I
The
think it should be.
20, the 22nd?
22nd I can do. 29th I leave for a while. But so yes, then we'll do
Okay.
season 4 of Stranger Things next Friday, the 22nd, folks. You guys are going to do Clubhouse after this, right? I think we are. I'll be doing Clubhouse as I'm setting up, getting ready to go. So if anybody wants to join us on Clubhouse, I think that's possible. Yeah.
Yep, I think so. I think yes, our behind the scenes person. When we do Clubhouse, I want you to talk, Mark, about what Rosie's thoughts were on the show, because Rosie was going to join us today, but was unfortunately not able to. Or maybe Rosie will even do Clubhouse. Maybe he'll join us and
That would be preferable because I'll be running around and I'll just mostly be listening. But
Allie's proud of you, Mark, for remembering your own schedule. Good job.
even a stopped clock is right twice a day. All right, guys. Well, this has been TV Talk. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Ayn Rand Center UK, Daniel, Rosie, the emperor behind the scenes, Jennifer and Jax, and I will see you guys next week when we review season 4 of Stranger Things, and I will see you on what do they call it?
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse in a couple of minutes. It was Allie. She threw me off with the schedule thing. All right, guys. Until next time, I bid you
See you guys next week.
adieu.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.